every time someone uses the word quantum to sound cool, a kitten goes to heaven. However, if when you use it, you actually mean something by it, then let's dive more into it. So here's the deal: the word quantum is being used by two completely different realms of human systems of knowledge. One is the science, and the other is the more spiritual, if you want to call it, or sometimes they call it woo woo aspects. And these two seem to contradict each other, and sometimes one side will say that no, this has nothing to do with quantum, and the other side will say, oh, like you don't understand us. And personally, having been in both sides of these realms of human knowledge, I have a certain view and I would like to share it with you because I really believe this is a misunderstanding. So let's dive into it. Here it is what I believe what happens. It's easier, I think, to compare this with the use of the word energy. So the word energy in science means something very specific. It's a quantity that we calculate in specific ways, and it's really expresses something very specific in mathematical form also. On the other hand, the word energy is also, very generic. It's being used in everyday settings, and actually, it's being used as a way to imply something is affecting us, like the energy in the air, the emotional energy, and all these things. It's being used like that even before science formalized it. There was this concept of energy, and then science took it and tried to make it precise, and it did. So, does this mean that people should not use the word energy in other ways? Does it mean that scientists should forbid anyone to use the word energy in other ways? Uh, from my point of view, this would sound ridiculous, and I hope it feels the same to you too, at least for the word energy. So, here is how this relates to the use of the word quantum and where things start to differ. You see, the word quantum, once used from the in the Google realm, in the spiritual realm, even you may want to call it metaphysical, whatever name you want to give it. So it evokes something, it inspires something. So it's not just about saying that something is quantum according to quantum mechanics, but it actually means something. And this meaning is important. On the other hand, the word quantum in science means something completely different. So, and here is where the conflict arises because it's simply a misunderstanding because we use the same term to mean different things. So, let me explain this a bit more. In science, the word quantum refers to quantum mechanics, which is kind of the mechanics of very small discrete quantities, the quanta. And this has a very specific way of viewing things and of calculating things and of extracting conclusions of things. Now, here is the interesting thing: these conclusions that come from quantum mechanics are sometimes completely out of this world, right? Like you have particles tunneling through walls, particles being both waves and particles, and it adds all this uh, nebulous like concept of possibility, and that many things that we would consider as obstacles can actually be overcome. So it has this very precise mathematical form with which it's meant in science, but the conclusions of that in an associative way can go much further when the human mind perceives them. And so, taking the word quantum from science and all these connotations about possibility it has, then it has been applied quite freely, I have to say, too freely for my taste. But it has been applied also in the spiritual realm to actually basically hint to the degree of possibilities. And in my view, this is okay. In my view, this is okay because it's similar to the way we use the word energy. It's just same word, we just mean it a different way. Now the conflict here arises because the word quantum was first defined by science and then taken from the way science defined it and expanded it. So it didn't really belong in the way it's being borrowed. It didn't really had this inspirational concept before science made it this way. Before it just meant in Latin some discrete quantity. And so scientists, we have this. How shall I say it? Um, we don't like when we put effort and make things precise. Someone taking them and turning them like blah. It feels like someone made a very beautiful house, and then some person takes this beautiful house and attaches tentacles all over it. That would be really weird. So, from a scientific point of view, that's how it feels. It feels like someone takes a specific construction, which was made to be precise, and just makes it all kinds of weird things that don't really mean the original thing. I mean, if someone did that for anything, it would be weird, right? Someone takes something you have and just changes it so it doesn't look like anything than the way you originally made it and named it. That would be weird. On the other hand, we have like to admit, right, that there is this possibility, this notion of possibility in the word quantum. So its use within that context has a meaning. Has a meaning. Because, right, if this inspires people to overcome mental blocks, if this inspires people to look beyond where they currently are and helps them change, then, that's a good thing. Because, sometimes you just have to slap quantum on it and smoke it. And if this helps you, it's good. But usually that's not only what happens. Another thing that happens is we like to say that our thing is connected to scientific reality. So basically, the spiritual, the Google people like to say that oh, like I named it quantum, so it really has to do with quantum mechanics. And my thing, it's really based in science. And in my opinion, this is plainly wrong because it's false. It isn't based in science. It's inspired by science. It's inspired by a scientific term. But it's different usage of the same term, like the word of energy, and it's important to acknowledge that. It's just, you see, we have this tendency that we want to connect things we perceive intensely in our mind and in our body to principles we believe they hold. And because science is kind of the overarching paradigm in our Western cultures, we feel what we do is not valid unless we call it scientific. And here lies the catch. If something feels real when we do it, feels like, yes, we went into another reality through quantum tunneling, through our mind, this is great. This is amazing. I believe we should do more than that. And together with the awareness that the way we experience this reality and we use this term is different way than science means it. Because we can change in different realities, right? We can one day we can use this notion, this word, the way science means it, and the other way, the way we mean it for our personal development. And the two, we can stay separate, but still inspired from each other, because we don't want to keep science terms in a box, in a castle, and say, no one should know about this because we made it. That would be nonsense, to say the least, wouldn't it? And this need to connect these things to the way the world works fundamentally, I think this highlights one of the most central limiting beliefs we humans have, because it's a limiting belief, but it also steps on a deep psychological need. And this psychological need is that reality, that what we perceive as real, has a unique fundamental interpretation, and everything should converge to it. But it doesn't. And the more we comprehend that, the more we understand that we can feel things as real in different ways, in different moments. So we can feel real, we had a quantum metaphysical experience, whatever this means for everyone, because there are many different systems out there, and this doesn't have to be connected to the real world the way science examines it. It's just different ways to perceive what's real. So that's what really this misunderstanding between the use of the word quantum between science and the spiritual realm and systems of knowledge, I believe, is really about. And I really think it's a misunderstanding. And as long as we are clear what we mean with in each case, as long as we are clear that we're getting inspired by the way science uses it, we're not trying to claim that this is really scientific. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this. Unless you've studied quantum mechanics deeply, and I don't mean just by some popular science articles, you cannot say that this is scientific. Yet you can be inspired and generate things from it and let your imagination travel. That's the amazing thing. You can still use it. Scientific terms don't have to stay in a scientific box. We just have to acknowledge how that they're used in different ways, in different contexts, and let these different ways communicate and cross-pollinate. And as they cross-pollinate, new things will emerge. And these new things would be interesting, together with the awareness that they came from things that they meant them in different ways.